Okay, we'll get going and let anybody that joins can dial in and catch up. So, firstly, good morning, everybody, and thank you all very much for joining episode 10 of our series, helping explore how tax technology can help you. Our last session focused on a very specific topic in and around Pillar 2, but today we do go broader. We're going to take a little look at how small automation tools are transforming tax functions and hopefully improving the everyday. As always, the housekeeping points, we are recording today. There is an opportunity for questions. Please do use the Q&A facility throughout, and we will pick those up at the end. There will be a follow-up session from today's topic for those that want a deeper dive, and invites will follow straight after this meeting. And as always, we're going to keep it to 30 minutes. So on to the main event. I'm Ian Bowden, tax partner and head of BDO's tax automation practice. The purpose of these webinars is really to explore that art of the possible, and we're running these to help raise awareness of the great options available. We have a different topic each month, and we've had some wonderful special guests, so please do check out our previous videos on the website. I mentioned today's session is a slight detour. Instead of just covering a single tax topic, many of you do know that our team has three main focuses. We help you get the most out of your existing systems. We help you understand the external market, and then we implement those solutions. And our final area, which is today's topic, we call it targeted automation, using off-the-shelf, low-code tools to try and improve and transform broken processes. Delighted to be joined today by one of those leading off-the-shelf low-code solution providers. We've got Rachel, we've got Jawwad, and we've got Ben from Alteryx. Alteryx, for those that haven't come across them before, have made huge inroads in finance functions around the world, helping transform and improve client data and improving how everybody's doing routine tasks. So thank you all very much for joining. We really do appreciate it. We are extensive users of your solution, so we're excited to see what you present today. Before we jump to Alteryx, as always with these sessions, we do like to give a little bit of a market view on today's topic. And joining me to discuss all things data automation is Ian Bacon, our head of delivery. He spent most of his career improving processes with technology. So over to you, Ian.
Thank you, Ian, and good morning, everyone. The market is constantly evolving, but resource and time pressures on tax functions only seem to increase. Whilst there are plenty of tools for large core processes like tax provision, tax returns, etc., these tools only really cover the holistic element of those processes and ignore many of the sub-processes that feed into them. Those could be your legal and professional fee analysis, capital allowance analysis, entertainment identification, business expense validation, to name just a few that fit in the corporate tax world. This is traditionally where Excel rules the roost. But this is starting to change. Low, no-code tools like Microsoft Power Tools, Rainbird AI, UiPath, and Alteryx, our guests today, provide a valid and growing alternative to those manual, time-consuming, Excel-heavy processes that have seen little change for perhaps decades. The big benefit is that they don't need IT resources to see huge potential benefits. I wish I had a tool like Alteryx back when I was in-house. The applications would have eliminated perhaps 18 months, if not 2 years of time that could have been better spent by my colleagues on much more value-added activities. But what would I have used them for? The best way to answer that is to tell you how we in our team at BDO use these on a daily basis. So take Alteryx as the prime example that we have them here today. We use Alteryx to move data between systems. We can do that in a reliable, fast, risk-free way because we apply exactly the same methodology in a very audited and controlled environment. We also perform entity analysis, identifying those more risky or material entities in order to make sure we focus the right amount of time on the right entity. Legal and professional fee analysis, capital allowances, contra-entity transaction analysis, investor reporting, and analytics data preparation are just some of those areas that we use Alteryx extensively to improve processes. Cumulatively, we've eliminated thousands of hours of time and countless potential errors from our processes. And this leads for our clients to much better, consistent quality output. But enough from me. Let me hand over to the team at Alteryx. Over to you.
Thank you, Ian. Much appreciated, and good morning to everyone who is listening in. I am going to help introduce the notion of what Alteryx is as a platform. I will share some material, very simple slides as a reference point, and really I'm acting as a bit of the tease today before we actually do a demo. So we would like to show you the platform in operation, and Ben, who's our lead solution engineer, will be walking you through a few examples of what the platform can do. So if you just bear with me while I share my screen, can I just hear a yes if you can see my screen?
Yeah,
Yes.
you're good.
Perfect, thank you. All right, so let's start as ever with an introduction to what is the platform. You may have seen a picture like this many a time, and let me just kind of work through from left to right to explain what is Alteryx. We recognize that a lot of pain that people go through is having the ability as tax professionals to be able to see the information that they need in a timely manner, understand what that information is, given that the tax professionals themselves are the best people to understand what the information and data is, and push it either downstream for further reporting analysis or do some analysis on the information. So where Alteryx very much comes to life is acting as an analytics and automation platform that brings information together from various sources, as you can see on the left-hand side of the page, be those data warehouses, applications or files, other source systems. You may have transactional data, you may have HR data, ERP data, all forms of data. Data complexities, for examples that we're seeing compounded with requirements that are coming through from Pillar 2 compliance. And that information may need to be not just extracted and transformed, but also improved, augmented, stitched, validated, controlled, prepared in a way so that it can be pushed downstream into other applications or systems, such as your tax calculation engines or reporting tools, but also having the ability to run the analysis on the information, some of the things that you can see in the kind of middle right of the page in the box in the blue. That really is the power of Alteryx, and it does so in a way with close to low code or no code capability. So it takes away all of the pain that, let's say, you may have had to go through to be able to run a lot of those complex transformations yourself by having predefined building blocks. And Ben will show you examples of this, what this looks like in the platform, that has inbuilt logic capability algorithms that do all of the heavy lifting for you. So Alteryx very much is a business-owned and business-friendly tool that takes away the pain that you may have had to go through and are still going through to bring vast amounts of information together from different forms, from different systems, applications, and files, put it into a form that makes more sense, and have the ability to run the analysis on that information by those people that understand the information the best, tax professionals like yourselves. And there are a number of extended capabilities that we have on the platform. We also have a number of products that extend into things like driver-based analysis to identify primary reasons as to why numbers may have changed. We also have the ability for users to build their own machine learning models and drive some of the more predictive capabilities and other packages, I guess, across our intelligence suite. So maybe just to kind of bring this to life into words as well as pictures, on the next page, I've just highlighted some of the core components of what Alteryx can do to transform tax. So what does Alteryx deliver? It's really 6 things I think it boils down to. The first is that simplified data connectivity and the integrations across different types of data, different formats and different sources. It's the ability to bring that information together through simplified building blocks, tools that we have on our platform. And you think about the importance that we have now around improved filing, speed of filings, the transition to much more real-time reporting, the ability to drive more insights from much more granular data that is imminent, I guess, and is very much required for a wide range of stakeholders. That kind of speed of assimilation and the need to transform the data with full transparency, understand all of the logic, all of the calculations that are being performed, is ever important now. And what this does is really improve the full, I guess, provenance and certainty of that data to understand how did it actually transform from point A to port B, or really across the full life cycle from source to report. And then we kind of move on to the more, I guess, exciting areas as well. Once, I guess, you have the information in good form, is identifying how you can drive optimization opportunities themselves with the information. So the ability to very much look at the real insights into the data, understand how you can become more self-serve and purposeful to rapidly identify those opportunities becomes the real win, I think, with Alteryx. And what does that lead to? Yes, there's obviously a big gain around operational efficiencies and minimizing kind of that kind of regulatory risk by improving the quality of your filings and disclosures. But also, I think once you've looked at the opportunities around improving the cost play, then there are opportunities to think about how does all of the capability feed into the other tentacles across the organization, into tax strategy and planning within FP&A, into cost allocation and capital allowances to improve the way that the organization manages its cost and capital better, and ultimately reduce its tax burden and cost of change by having something that's sustainable and self-serve within the organization. So with that notion, it's unsurprising. There's a lot of examples, a lot of use cases of things that Alteryx can do within the tax landscape. And here are some examples on the page. Now, we play quite wide across the whole indirect and direct tax space. Some examples that you can see, maybe just working from kind of top left to right. We do a lot around things like VAT risk monitoring and risk returns, the ability to take information from ERPs and GLs and have the ability to do consolidation of various entity level data into single submissions. We do a lot of space around the allocations. You can see cost allocations there, the ability to take a view of all of the different logic that you've applied, have that logic maintained in the platform, run that logic so you can do all your allocations at a very granular level, whatever the levels that you choose, based on whatever drivers you have, revenue, headcount, etc. And also, I guess, as you can see further to the bottom of the page, really improving the way that we do things like analytics and enhance management information so that it can be visualized in better forms. So think about this as having the ability to create better data sets and preparing those in a way that improves outcomes, having the ability to improve the data quality, having certainty in the data transformations, and having the visibility throughout that process with things like capital allowances, cost allocation, so you can see exactly how data move from point A to point B. Here's an example just to bring this to life from one of our customers. This is a global pharmaceutical and biotech company. This organization, as I'm sure many of you right now are probably going through, is feeling the pain around how it prepares for its annual filings. And there was a lot of manual activity that it was going through. Things that it was doing very manually was converting all of the financial statements for group reports for every legal entity, where every legal entity submission wasn't really standardized and was different at different levels of granularity, and taking multiple tax workbooks, so hundreds of tax workbook, in order to create a trial balance, an unadjusted trial balance in a very, very manual manner. And this literally involved the copying and pasting of workbooks into a single TB view. The ability to create a tax kind of provision schedule was also equally manual. If you think about the whole consolidation process, applying your adjustments on your TBs and then creating a journal that posted into finance and delivering a tax report, all of that was also being done very manually. And unsurprisingly, what this led to were high level of operational risk, a lot of errors in the initial trial balance, no standardization in terms of submissions from entities, and lack of transparency throughout that through calculation process. So what did Alteryx do? It helped to standardize the production of the trial balance by creating a workflow and series of workflow connected through server that could be run and scheduled at any point in time, taking away the pain of doing that on a manual basis every single time with different data sets. It had the full transparency to explain what information was used in each workflow for the run, who ran that, what was the outcome, and obviously the logic built in to show how the calculations actually took place in order to create a tax provision. What this saved was hours of time around the close activity. And I think really, really importantly, it kind of moved into a space where the tax professionals had more time to focus on the real tail risk, the anomalies that may have occurred in the reports, and standardize the approach by which entities were making the submissions. Users were also, I think, then really had an excellent opportunity to look at some of the reasons why numbers may have moved. So the version comparison to identify those movements between chart of accounts, between previous runs and current runs, was very important to get to some of the potential material risks in the actual reported outcome. So some of the capability I mentioned earlier to do, like automated driver-based and root cause analysis, really kind of came into life to help identify those reasons and explain why the numbers may have moved. And just to finally whet the appetite, as it were, in terms of what was produced, here's just an example of a workflow. Now, you may not be able to see all of the building blocks, and the intention here is not to use this as the example, but really show you what a workflow may look like. And as you can see, it's very much a connection of various tools on a page that leads to an outcome. What I'm going to do now is I can hear you screaming out, is it time for a demo? The answer is yes, it is time for a demo. I'm going to hand over to Ben, and Ben is really going to bring this to life in one of the examples that we've got packaged for yourself. In this example, what you are going to see is the importance of having accuracy in your earnings and profits. And the reason why that's important is because if you think about your deductible dividend regimes and the ability to stay true to your obligations to pay dividends to your shareholders, it's very important to have accuracy in your earnings numbers. And therefore, the pain that you may go through to do classification of hundreds and thousands of rows of transaction data to make sure the right accounting treatment has been applied, to make sure that your earnings adjustments have been applied correctly based on your current year earnings, and have certainty around the outcomes becomes ever more important now, particularly as we think about the importance of investor confidence in our companies. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Ben, and Ben's going to walk you through a few of the building blocks in the workflow that we've got predefined, and I'm sure we can squeeze in a few questions at the end. Ben, over to you.
Lovely. Thanks, Rod. I'll just share my screen. If someone can let me know that's come through, that'd be great.
Yes, got that.
Lovely. Great, thanks everyone. Just going to be a lovely short, sharp demo just to introduce Alteryx Designer, some of the building blocks that we have here, and just introduce, I guess, how to get started building a workflow. As Jawwad said, this is the use case to show today, looking at earning and profits. The idea is that it creates two outcomes, so one being an overall table to give us for each filing entity the total in USD. And the other outcome to have a separate tab for each filing entity with a further breakdown for each of the sub-entities. So the workflow here is an end-to-end demonstration of how Alteryx works. And we're taking in data from multiple inputs and creating multiple outputs and automating the end-to-end process. So the idea is that we're reading in multiple sheets or multiple files. We're doing some data cleansing. We're doing some transformations and enriching our data with a join or something similar to a VLOOKUP, and using a module of something that's used very frequently. So company code and tax lookups, we have a pre-built part of the workflow, which is reusable across departments, across different people, and across different workflows. So the idea here is that we have some standard inputs such as current year taxes, master company data, and FX rates. And through the combination and transformations of that, we produce our two separate outcomes to have for each entity a breakdown of those total values. You'll notice through these building blocks, I can click through each one and I can see the traceability and the auditability through it all. So once something's been applied, I can see what's come in and what's come out. So at no point do I lose my data. At no point do I not understand what's happening. And it's in a nice to read, commentable format. So here, just at a high level, I can understand exactly what's happening at which point. So if I just zoom in one tool, for example, I can see this tool here splits my company into company number and company name. And I can see that down here in the data preview below. Whilst we're only showing a very small subset of what Alteryx can do, you can see across the top all the ribbons of different tools. And as Jawwad mentioned, we've got things like building machine learning models. So really going to the advanced capabilities of Alteryx. Really, the favorites toolbar is where we're using 90 to 95% of our tools coming from there to do all the heavy lifting for these very manual jobs. So I'll just show you how you get started with a brand new workflow and how easy it is to bring data in and start to explore and clean. So the first thing we can do is bring in data. So I can bring data directly from a folder on my machine. I can connect to multiple data sources, but here I can drag and drop that data and select a sheet, or in this case, I'm going to dynamically read in all sheet names. So here I'm going to bring in my sheet names. I can use the search bar. There's lots of help at your fingertips to be able to identify what tool to use. So here I'm going to dynamically input all sheets within my file through a template that I give. Once I hit run, I see an error by design. The error showing me that I have not configured the tool correctly. And whilst differing to something like Excel, if we see an error, we don't really understand what is happening. So in this case, I haven't configured the tool correctly, and it's explaining exactly the field I have not selected. So here I select the sheets that I'm going to read in. And through these combination of tools, I've just read in all 4 sheets within my data set. So here I've got 4 quarters worth of data. I'm free to explore the data through Alteryx. I can see whether the data is in a good format, whether it's nice and clean, and very quickly apply some data cleansing to remove nulls, for example, and replace them with zeros. And as I mentioned before, I can see the before and after. So I can see this data down here at the bottom full of nulls. Could be a problem if we're doing calculations such as FX rates calculations. And after applying this tool, I can see I've got a lovely clean data set. Every column is tracking green to show that it is in a good format. If we just jump back to the finished solution, we can kind of see as we go along at each stage, we're doing some transformations. So in this case, we are rotating or pivoting our data to sum all 4 of our quarters and create a total column, which we're going to use then later on with our FX calculations and combinations with our taxes and other data that we enrich further down the line. Where we differ slightly with something like Excel, being able to remove, add data, is that the data is never removed at any point. So the join is a nice example of this, where we are bringing data together. This is similar to something like a VLOOKUP. If I wasn't sure how to do that, we can kind of use plain language in the search bar to get a suggestion and to get lessons from our community. And our community where we've got interactive videos, posts, solutions, knowledge articles, where I can learn as I build through Alteryx. Using the join as a VLOOKUP, here I'm bringing my 2 data sets together, and I can very quickly do a comparison of inputs versus outputs. So in this example here, I have 37 records coming in. If I just zoom here, we can see the preview. It's joining to 37 records, and I can see the output is 37 records. I haven't created any duplicates that might cause double counting errors. And most importantly, I can see has anything fallen out from these 2 other outputs. And finally, you'll notice once we've done this calculation, we've done the FX rates applied through a variety of formulas, we are then able to output our data in as many streams as we would like. So as I showed from the outputs at the beginning, we have 1 output just to give us a high-level summary per entity, per filing entity, and then we have a further breakdown for each tab for the entities and sub-entities themselves. So at this point, I can split my data, do very quick summarize to show the data broken down by filing entity, and then create a formatted Excel, or just create a raw data output, which could equally be to something like a dashboard or a other data source like a database. Appreciate it's a very, very quick demo for you all. Obviously, we're happy to show Alteryx further in more detail if you are interested, and I'll hand back for a very quick Q&A.
Thank you both very much indeed. That was really helpful. This is your chance. We've got 3 minutes or so to go. So if anybody does have any burning questions, there will be a follow-up session to today's event. So you'll have a chance to have a little bit more than 5 minutes with Ben, taking you through what the tool can do. But if anybody does have any specifics that they want to raise via the Q&A, get typing now. A couple of quick ones from us whilst the questions come in, hopefully. So in terms of what you're seeing in the future, given all of the buzz around this type of thing, Jawwad, or are you able to give us a view in terms of where Alteryx is going next?
Yeah, sure. You mean I think we'll just cover a little bit around the roadmap and what does that look like. I think what we're seeing is clearly the advancements in what's happening in data science and AI. That is basically a bit of a game changer in terms of how we think of our roles and the concept of what tax professionals may do. I think in the short term, we have a lot, I think, that still can be unpacked around how you make the best use of the AI, I guess the fundamental AI building blocks that Ben has showed you to get the best return for those to do the basics right. And that very much is to have information in better form so it can be used to improve the trust and certainty and accuracy of outcomes. What's on our roadmap? There's a lot we're doing already, I guess, within the Gen AI space. We have the ability, for example, through our Auto Insights product to auto-generate emails with commentary to explain numbers and or create PowerPoint packs that summarize information in management reports. And that's very much done through OpenAI connectors and the rest, which we're happy to show you as well. Ben, if there's anything else you wanted to just touch on in terms of the future roadmap as to where else we're doing, then feel free to do so. I think there's one more question that's just come in as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would just add from a platform point of view that I think you probably hit it bang on the head, like looking at more integrations with things like AI, cloud-based tooling, and the more advanced capabilities and progressing them.
Perfect. There's a couple of questions coming in. I just got one question from us, and then I'll jump to that one on there. Do you want to?
Yeah, so unstructured data is quite common in tax. What capabilities does Alteryx have to consume this type of data for use?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one. Unstructured data is kind of a bread and butter of Alteryx. That the preparation tools before you do any sort of advanced analysis are kind of focused on things like unstructured data. So being able to bring that data in, split it, parse it, identify what data is which, tagging that, creating new columns. That's kind of where the heavy lifting of Alteryx comes in, and often we see that combined with things like dashboards that can't ingest data like that.
Perfect. Last couple of questions that have come in, just to kind of knock these on the head. There's been one in terms of how it works, and I think there's an easy point in terms of what Alteryx is. Obviously, you can buy Alteryx, and the intent is that it does give you a lot more power around the kind of the self-service side of things. There's some great online learning, and there's some various really helpful things as part and parcel of it. So we are seeing the rise certainly of self-service products and people doing more with these types of things. Obviously, the likes of BDO and others are on hand where we can help you build out the processes, but the intent is that you can own Alteryx licenses and build on all of these different types of things as you go forward. And there is one last question in terms of will Alteryx in the due course be able to file returns, the last mile? What's your thoughts? I guess it's another roadmap question. Now, how are you fancying IXBRL tagging, Jawwad?
I wouldn't say that we haven't considered it at the moment. I'd say that it can be on the roadmap, but I think it comes back to the core proposition of what we have. I think in order to file returns and have the data that's needed in the right form is probably where most of the legwork and hard work is needed. The standard or the templates that's needed for the actual returns is not something that we have commoditized per se or off the shelf. We work with other reporting platforms or XBRL solutions in order to do that quickly and obviously move to a much more real-time view of reporting in order to actually, work with those other partners to automate how those returns are filed themselves. But not to say it couldn't be on our roadmap, it's just probably not currently in our current views, but more to come, I'm sure.
Brilliant. Well, look, that's our 30 minutes. Thank you all, everybody, for joining. Really appreciate it. And a huge thank you, as always, to Alteryx for joining us this morning and taking us through what is a great solution. So there will be follow-ups, and so please do join into the deeper dive sessions when the invites come out. Thank you all very much, and talk to you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.